Hi, John Morgan here, and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And well, this week I'm getting a little bit of a late start. Usually we're live at 5 p.m. At 5 p.m., I was still editing some video, so I had an unexpected conference call this afternoon, and that kind of pushed my schedule back a little bit. See, Patty's joined us. Hi, Patty. But well, up first today, I thought I would talk a little bit about our store locations. So right now at our stores, we are starting to get in spring flowers. So we've got things like beautiful zinnias here, um, foxglove, all the beautiful spring flowers. And we're starting to get in some of those summer annuals. And along those same lines, our stores are also open now later into the evening. So we're open until 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday now. And then most places, it varies by an hour or so, are open noon to 6 p.m. on Sunday. So we do have extended store hours now. And well, up first, I thought we would head out to the greenhouse and take a look at what we have growing out there. Hi, John Morgan here, and this afternoon I am out here in the greenhouse where it is a lot more colorful. So let's take a look at some of what we have blooming. First of all, we have these mixed planters that are absolutely gorgeous. And overhead we have geranium baskets that are being watered. Let's go take a closer look at that. So a couple weeks ago, plants in this section were just transplanted, and now we're really starting to see a lot of blooms. Got a ton of color over there, and then right here below me is begonias. And if we get down and take a look at those, you really start to see some beautiful blooms. Now right here we have beautiful pink begonias. One bay over, have gorgeous petunias. And then one more bay over, we have impatiens. So those petunias will start shipping out pretty soon. Down here, let's see, 3-4 bays over, we have more petunias that are a few weeks behind that batch. So these will be ready a few weeks later, but they're just now starting to pop out blooms. So it's really all about timing in the greenhouse. We do batches like that one. We already have another batch elsewhere that we're pulling from. Then we'll pull from that one, and then this one, and so on. And then down on this end of the greenhouse, we're growing seedlings that are still way far off from being transplanted. And that's a quick look at what we have blooming in the greenhouse this week. And of course, for other great information, head over to bulbsmarket.com. And that's a quick look at what we have growing out in the greenhouse. And like I said, like right now, we're seeing kind of that wave of color because we're constantly transplanting new stuff and then we have stuff coming into bloom. So when you walk out, it's kind of a patchwork quilt in one area, then it's still green in another area. And then slowly over the course of a week or so, you watch that change. And I can walk out a few days apart and the greenhouse can look completely different this time of year. I've got a tour group coming down this Thursday. It's Washington County Master Gardeners. So if you're on that tour group, you're going to see a lot of what was just in this video. And what we're going to do is break up into small groups and kind of go off in different directions to look at different things. And, well, if you missed our spring color tour or you're not coming on the Master Gardener tour, there is a way you can check out our plants. And it's over on our website. So let me jump over there. I am working on, I don't have all of them up yet, but I thought, hey, I'll roll with what I've got. I do have the Our Plants section up on the website now. So right now I'm on the premium annuals page, but up here at the top we've got the drop down menu, or if you're on mobile it's a little hamburger menu over on the right hand side. But I've got our premium annuals, so you can scroll through and see a selection of those. So like those mixed containers that we were looking at, a lot of those are mixes like that. Also have a selection, I need to go out and get some more photos, but a selection of hanging basket photos and some of the flower varieties that we plant in hanging baskets. And then finally I have our herbs up. So I'm working on the last two sections, which is our bedding flats and vegetables. And oh yeah, I can actually, yeah, like right here's the list that I'm going through. Basically what happened is when I updated our website, it changed all of the descriptions. So I have to go through and edit each plant individually. And that's been really fun to do. No. Nope. Not at all. That's a lie. But yeah, I have to go through, edit every single plant, and then also compare it because our list changes from year to year. So I have to go in, remove stuff that we're no longer offering, and then also go in and add new stuff. And I have to go out and find pictures for that new stuff. So it's a little bit of a process, and I've got the two biggest sections left to do. But to kind of whet your appetite, I have those first three sections up under the Our Plants section. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have the rest up by the end of the week. And yeah, that's a good question that Ashley just asked. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. She says, any peonies this year? We will be getting those in as perennials. We don't grow peonies ourselves. We get them in from an outside nursery. But yeah, we will be getting in peonies. I just don't know what the date is for that. And since it is something from an outside supplier, we won't have it like pictured on our website. I'm pointing up there like, you know what that means, but the monitor that has that screen that I'm showing right there is actually up above my two screens. So yeah, so look for that in the coming week or so. And up next, I thought we would take a look at the weather, because the weather has been kind of crazy recently, and the next video that I want to share this week has a lot to do with the weather. Right now it is 68, and I have to say, like, the last few days has been pretty calm as far as our weather goes. I mean, we haven't had any huge shifts. It feels more like springtime weather right now. But 68 out right now feels like 75. I was outside shooting that video that we just watched in the greenhouse. I was roasting. I'm glad I left my flannel jacket in here before I went out to the greenhouse. Yeah, stopped by in Belpre and they didn't have them. Yeah, so that's something that we'll be getting in a little bit later. We kind of plan shipments to kind of coincide with Mother's Day, because that's like our biggest sales weekend, and it's also the kind of the accepted last frost date for our area. So we tend to kind of plan around that. But yeah, right now in the area, it's actually a little bit warmer to the west of us. Out in Columbus and that area, it's a little bit warmer. And we're going to be having a warm front move through. So tomorrow, we're going to be hitting 79, 80 Thursday, then back down to 74 on Friday with a chance of storms coming in. And of course, heading into the weekend, that's further out. The forecast becomes less accurate. But something that you can look for is our podcast, the Keep Growing podcast. It comes out every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And you can find it on any of the main podcast networks. But what I do is I cover the gardening week ahead based off of the almanac and the gardening calendar, which is specific to our area. And then I also cover the weather forecast, any local events that are going on, and stuff like that. So it is kind of like garden news for this region. Yeah, Patty says it's 76 in Chicago right now. So yeah, we've kind of got a little cold bubble over us right now, and to the west it's warm, and that's kind of moving into our region. But yeah, if you're kind of a garden almanac nerd and a weather nerd like me, that podcast, I definitely recommend listening to it. And what I do is I cover the gardening tasks for the week ahead, but I also try to kind of pick a topic to drill down into. And also, if you have questions, submit questions. The podcast is called the Keep Growing Podcast. You can email keepgrowing@bobsmarket.com with your questions. I get those and then incorporate them into the episode. So with that, and some of this crazy weather that we've had recently, I thought we would head back out to my garden for a garden update. So in the last garden update, I was out setting up some nets over my raised beds. And then we had that massive hailstorm that went through. So I think you might see where this is going. So let's take a look in the video. This evening I am out here in the garden where I'm working on tilling up the beds, kind of cultivating them to get rid of weeds. But I did have a little bit of a disaster. So in a previous video, I showed adding these nets to my garden, and you'll notice they're not here. In fact, this is the only bed with a frame, and I had to cobble this frame together out of parts. And the reason why is that massive hailstorm that we had go through. It did damage some of my plants. My pansies at the front of my house, they really took a beating. But so did these nets. One of them, that one that's in pieces right there, I actually found it all the way over on the other side of my neighbor's field, but I didn't find the net. And the other night I was mowing grass, he came out and flagged me down, and he's like, hey, there's an old toolbox over there at the corner of my lot. I folded up your net and put it inside of that so it wouldn't blow away. So let's go look for it. Yeah, so my garden is all the way over there, and here's the net. Like he said, he stuck an old toolbox on top of it, and yeah, it I think it's got some tears in it. We'll take it over and assess the damage. Believe it or not, the net actually survived. So now I have one frame and two nets. I have the other one bagged up inside the house, so I guess I have a spare. I don't know how I'm going to attach this thing better. This one I tied down. It did survive the storm. For the netting itself, I'm thinking about just getting a boatload of zip ties and adding zip ties like all around it. It looks like the little fabric ties that it had just ripped, which with like 60-mile-an-hour winds, yeah, that's going to happen. The other thing that I'm out here working on this evening is cultivating my beds. So I'm knocking down any early weed growth. And these are my peas. So if you remember, I did 2 rows 6 inches apart, and then spaced those groups 24 inches apart. These 4 rows right here are my Snowbird variety, and they are coming up really well. So they sprouted great. Down there, on the other hand, is the Green Arrow variety. It didn't do so well in this super rainy weather that we've had. I did have, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that came up, but then none in the furthest row down. So that leaves a little gap down there on the end, and what I'm probably going to do is end up planting like some marigolds or something like that down there. That'll kind of act as a natural pest repellent, and it'll also just look pretty. So I might do that. And then right here is my bed of radishes and lettuce, which got that massive weed there, some other weeds there. Yeah, again, the super wet weather was really rough on these trying to sprout. I see like one little baby lettuce there, maybe one there, a little spattering here, a little smattering there, and then my radishes kind of come up here and there. So now I have to kind of decide what to do with this bed. I think this row is good as far as leaf lettuce, and I think this row, aside from that giant thing, is good also. The radishes, also, I think I can kind of cultivate in around those. So what I might end up doing is make this kind of a wacky mixture bed. So I'll go in, till up kind of selected areas, and then reseed it. So I've got to go look and see what seeds I have, and if I need to purchase any to fill in these missing spots. And you know, that is kind of the danger of early spring planting. The weather is always unpredictable, and you might have great luck with something like those peas over there. You might have a bad day with with this lettuce that didn't germinate well. But you know, I can't fault it. I planted it, and then literally like the day after it started raining, and we had rain for almost a week. You just kind of have to roll with the punches, you know. But when it comes to cost, I sowed this from seed. The seed's running about $2 a pack right now, so I'm out like $4. if I were to go to the grocery store and buy the same amount of lettuce that this should produce, I'd be looking at $15 to $20. So, you know, it balances out in the end. The other thing that I'm doing this evening is testing out a new garden tool. And I gotta show this thing to you. So weeding is one of those garden tasks that is always not a fun chore. This makes it a little bit better. This is basically a battery operated handheld rototiller. And the cool thing is it just runs off of drill batteries. I can swap them out. Also bought other little doodads to go with it. I have a handy battery operated lantern, which I was using the other night looking for the for the missing row cover. Yeah, I was over in the field in the middle of the night going, I think that's the frame, but where's the net? Is the net gone? Is it in the next county? I don't know. But yeah, I got the rototiller, lantern, handy Bluetooth speaker so I can listen to some tunes, and then also have a leaf blower and a little string trimmer on the way. So all of those are handy garden tools. And where it's a battery system, I tend to stick with two brands. So I have one outdoor brand, one indoor brand, and that way everything's universal as far as batteries and everything. So yeah, this, it is really handy, and I buzzed through. I didn't make sure my batteries were charged before I came out, so I didn't have enough to do all the beds. But on a full charge, I could probably do all these beds in about 10 minutes. Which doing it by hand takes a lot longer. So yeah, I think this was a great investment. Checking out some of my transplants here in the garden. They did get frosted, and you can see some of that frost damage here on this kale, but we already have new growth coming in and taking its place. And then also on these Brussels sprouts, we've got that looks like hail damage there, but we do have frost damage, but it looks like the plant is recovering nicely. Do have a little pest issue right here. So something I'm going to be picking up is some Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew to treat these with. So it is an all-natural insecticide that works well for little critters like that. But overall, these are recovering nicely. They do look a little worse for the wear after, you know, frost and hail damage. But getting them out here, I'm getting a hardier plant to start with because I'm kind of putting them through the ringer. And then over in this bed, my onions are coming in nicely. So here, probably this week, I'll start pulling some of these up to use as green onions. And like I said, this last row here I planted extra dense, so it's going to be the first one that I pull from. Elsewhere here in my yard, I have other projects going, like my wildflower bed here. I got it tilled up and sowed last week, and if we get down close, you can see some stuff is just starting to germinate and sprout. So right there, we've got a plant sprouting. But some of the stuff takes, depending on the flower variety, it could take up to a couple weeks for it to germinate. So I'm going to give it a little while and then kind of go back in and reassess how well things are germinating. And what I did is I reserved one other container of seed that I can use to go back and kind of spot treat and fix areas. So I have this patch right here, and I have this section over here that also has wildflowers in it, but you'll notice I didn't till it up quite as much. So I'm doing a little bit of an experiment to see which side does better this year. The lightly tilled side that may or may not have already had some wildflowers growing in it, or the side over here. And then I'm also going to leave that pile of brush there. We might invite some critters into the area, but I've also sown some stuff in around it that I kind of want to vine into it. So I am being kind of strategic where I'm planting stuff, but then I also have kind of a general wildflower mix that I'm broadcasting over the entire area. Some stuff that I haven't planted yet is zinnias, cosmos, and sunflowers, and also some hollyhocks. I have specific areas where I want to plant those, and I'll be coming back in and doing that later also. And then another thing that I'm doing is I added another path here. So I've got that path there that kind of meanders through my meadow over to the crepe myrtles. Another path that cuts across back to where eventually I'm planning on a fire pit going. And then I have this path that comes back to this backside where the garden is, and then also my sumacs. But if you're over there, you had to walk all the way out and around to get to stuff. So I ended up kind of bisecting this wildflower bed here with another path. And I wish I had a camera on my camera right now, because a little black and yellow orangish colored ladybug just landed right on my phone. He's really cute, but I can't show you that. Let me see if I can get him on my finger. And finally, I ran the tiller, not the little battery powered tiller, my big rototiller. I ran it through my row section of my garden the other day too, to kind of get it started on tilling it. I only had the blade depth set at like 3 inches, just enough to kind of loosen up the upper layer. So I do need to go back and till it deeper when I get ready to plant. And well, that is kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of what's happening with my spring garden. And I kind of wanted you to show you this because not everything goes to plan when you garden. You're working with nature, and nature's unpredictable. And well, that is all that I have as far as a garden update right now. So we'll check back in once things get a little bit bigger, once we get ready to plant this. And yeah, that's a quick look at what's happening in my garden. Like I said in the video, this time of year is really unpredictable, and it can be a challenge to garden this time of year, but that's part of what makes it fun, is you don't know what's going to happen, and you have to kind of plan ahead. So this morning, I stopped by down at our Mason Market while I was shooting that video that I had at the beginning while I was talking about the store hours changing. And well, while I was doing that, I was also buying seeds to plant to kind of replace lettuce. So I picked up some black seeded Simpson, which I know does really well. And then I also picked up some radish seeds. So probably this evening, here in the next, I don't know, hour or so, I'm going to be sowing some lettuce seed at home. And, well, that is all that I have for this week. So, until next time, keep growing.